Good morning from sunny Slovakia, where the fifth event of the FIA GT3 European Championship is about to enjoy its second race of the weekend. Hello and welcome from me, Ben Edwards, as we prepare for a 1-hour, 2-driver race to be held on this new circuit just 40 minutes from Bratislava and a short distance to both the Austrian and Hungarian borders. A relatively long track, it's a fraction under 6 kilometers or 3 3/4 miles, and it's got a mixture of fast turns, combination sections and some elevation change. Great conditions this morning, 25 degrees air temperature, track temperature 36 degrees, and it's lovely to see the fans coming in from the various different borders and from Slovakia itself. This is the pre of the Slovakia. It's the second time they've run this meeting. But let's concentrate on what's going to be happening on the race today. And one of the front runners yesterday was the Lamborghini of the Reiter engineering team. They're way back on the grid. Let's hear from Nicky Melnhoff.
Nicky, obviously hoping for a decent result today after yesterday's bad luck.
Yeah, I really did a big mistake in qualifying. That's what makes us end up here at the back of the grid. I hope for a good start. Bad luck yesterday with the tires. I don't think it's going to be any better because we don't have good tires. So we just hope for the best, and we just hope that we get a clean start. And it's a long race for us, so I hope that we can stay in the race till the end, and then top 10 would be good for us.
Thank you.
So Nicky Melnhoff there, starting down in 17th place. They led the race yesterday, but they ended up with a puncture, and that puncture caused some damage to the car, and that put them out of the lead of the race. They were leading quite comfortably with Albert von Thurn Taxis actually driving at that stage. So after that car went out, what happened? Well, we had a fantastic battle between Ferrari and Mercedes. In fact, two Mercedes were up there in the fight for the lead, but one of those dropped away, and ultimately it was between the championship leaders, Castellacci and Leo, in their black Ferrari 458, the mean machine, but up against the magnificent Mercedes SLS AMG, which ultimately took the victory, looking after its tyres brilliantly well. And it was Dominic Bowman and Bryce Bosey who came through to take the first ever win, in fact, for Mercedes in the FIA GT3 Championship. Good third place for this car, though, of Claudia Hurtgen and Csaba Volta, and they could be a threat again today. They start on the third row of the grid. As a result of finishing third yesterday, they do have an extra 5-second pit stop to cope with, so that might cost them a little bit in terms of their competitiveness. And of course the winner from yesterday, the Mercedes, which actually starts back on the 6th row of the grid, has a 15-second longer stop. Again, that's the handicapping system that is used now in the GT3 European Championship. But as we move up towards the front, the Ferrari that was second yesterday, that has a 10-second extra stop. It does start on the 2nd row of the grid, however, so it's in good shape. And up front as well, we've also got some other quick Mercedes to watch out for. Mike Parisi's car, this starts on the 3rd row of the grid alongside the BMW Z4, and he was fastest in the free practice on Friday. Didn't really show that same pace in qualifying, but I think we could see Mike Parisi be a factor today. He'll have been a little disappointed, I'm sure, not to have been the first driver to win a race in the SLS, and he'll be trying to make that come right here today. So absolutely gorgeous conditions, everybody taking full advantage of the bright sunshine here in Central Europe, topping up the tan, and I should think they have to be pretty careful not to go too lobster-like today, because it is very, very hot out there. Moving alongside onto the 2nd row, in fact, we've got the Ferrari there, and it is the car of Francesco Castellacci who will be starting. His teammate Federico Leo taking over halfway through. Good race yesterday, really using his head, Castellacci, because he took the lead, but when the tyres went off, he wasn't silly about it. He knew that the Mercedes that was challenging him wasn't fighting for the championship, so he decided to sort of make it fairly easy for the Mercedes to go through. He stuck in there, that's the onboard view in the Ferrari, and he stuck in there well to hold on to 2nd place, and very useful points in the championship. So they've opened themselves up a 16-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. Maxime Martin and Gaël Lesoudier in the Aston have actually moved into 2nd. And in the Teams' Championship, the Ferrari AF Corsa team is in a stronger 3rd than it was. It's 6 points behind the DB Motorsport BMW team, but the Teams' Championship still being led by Team Schubert, the team that looks after Claudia Hurtgen's BMW. So the Z4 still looking good in terms of the Teams' Championship. Now let's just move up to the 2nd row of the grid, alongside the Ferrari, Nicky Katzberg in one of those BMW Z4s. Let's hear from him.
Nicky, 2nd row, it's good when you fighting for the Teams' Championship here this weekend.
Yeah, we're fighting for the team championship, so I need to make sure I keep the car on track. Anyway, at the start I think we will lose some positions because our car is not so fast on straight line, so need to keep my head straight and not overreact and try to win everything back in the first corner. So, but I think we have a good car and can be a good race for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly both cars were in trouble yesterday. The other car, the number 35 BMW, ended up spinning in the pack. There was a bit of bumping and boring into the first corner, and I think Nicky obviously are very aware of that. The Mercedes were very fast at the start yesterday, off the line that is, as they went over the line on the rolling start, so I think he's a bit prepared for that again, and that's why he's talking in those terms. But Nicky, of course, is a GT1 World Championship driver, as well as being a GT3 European contender. But there we are, taking a look at his car, the number 36 machine. It should be fast. His teammate Harry Collin not as quick as Nicky, and they've been in position where Harry's been handed the car with a comfortable lead, only to lose out on the last couple of laps on a couple of occasions this year, but that's part and parcel of it. Might be tougher for Nicky to have quite such an advantage in the early stages of this race. But as we move up to the front row, we've got a really interesting pair of cars on the front row. In fact, we've got a Mercedes of the Gravity Charus racing team, and Anthony Charus, obviously very important in motorsport in Czech Republic and in Slovakia. We've got a Czech driver in that Mercedes. It's Jarek Yanis. He's with Haley.
Jarek, what a place to start here at your home track.
It's very good to be actually on the first row, so it's really good. We have a really nice weather, a lot of spectators. So hopefully the start will be all right, and everyone will survive the first corner, and then we see how does it go in the race.
Thank you.
So he's from the Czech Republic, so it's sort of a home track for him, but of course Czechoslovakia as was, now split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and suitably enough we have a Slovakian on pole position in the shape of Stefan Rosina. Now Stefan Rosina has joined Reiter Engineering just for this weekend, which is a bit of fun really, because of course he has the local support. He's a regular in the Porsche Super Cup, a regular contender and a regular front runner, I should say. He's been doing it for some 4 or 5 years now, Stefan Rosina. Did do one race in GT1 last year, a bit of a one-off at Brno. Again, more of a local thing than doing a regular contest in the GT1 World Championship. But he is here this weekend. He's in one of the Lamborghini Galados that we saw running so quickly yesterday in the hands of Albert Montour and Taxis. And Stefan took pole position, only narrowly, by less than a tenth of a second in qualifying yesterday. But he seems to have adapted to the mid-engine Lamborghini pretty quick. And I'm sure the Slovakian fans will be cheering him on. Haley is with Stefan on the grid. Let's go and hear what he has to say.
Stefan, it's certainly going to be an exciting race for these home fans to watch.
Well, I hope so that it's going to be interesting to watch for them, yeah, for sure. But as you might know, you never know what might happen, so we will see.
Thank you.
Well, he's feeling cool as a cucumber, isn't he? He's getting ready to go for the start of this race. No real emotion there at all from Stefan. He's got it all tightly under control, and he's just thinking about the race. Great looking car though, isn't it? Fantastic livery on the Lamborghini Gallardo. You can't miss that one. Up alongside it on the far side, of course, the number 11, the Gullwing Mercedes, the SLS AMG, with that long front end. Big heavy car, but a big powerful motor under the bonnet. And it is those Mercedes which are so fast in a straight line, making full use of that 6.2 litre V8 that sits under the bonnet. And yesterday at the start the Mercedes were indeed very quick, so we'll have to watch for that once again here off the line. And don't forget as well that Mike Parisi's on the third row in another of the Mercedes, and he's likely to be pretty fast himself off the line. Out of luck yesterday, the Ford GTs, there are 2 of them racing under the Fischer Racing banner this weekend. Christopher Nygaard is best placed of them on the grid this time. He's on the 6th row of the grid. The other car way back on the 13th row, so that one's got some work to do. And starting right at the back of this race is Joe Osborne in one of the United Autosports Audi R8. He had an incident in qualifying yesterday, went off and hit the tyre barrier. Unfortunately for him, when the car got recovered, it also got dropped off the back of the recovery truck, so damage was further done to the back of the car. And Joe did make the race yesterday, so that was good news, but he has to start from the back of the grid for this one, so plenty of work for him and teammate Mark Patterson in the number 22 car. Their teammates in the number 23 car, just a couple of further places up the grid. Formation lap gets underway here then at the Slovakia Ring. This new track, it only opened in March of 2010. It's used massively for manufacturers and for members of the public. Let's take a look at the grid. Lamborghini versus Mercedes on the front row, Slovak versus Czech. So it's a great rivalry. Then we've got the BMW and the Ferrari on the second row, the championship leading car starting fourth. Then Parisi and the Mercedes. Claudia Hurtgen starts the BMW on the third row of the grid. Row 4 sees Dino Lunardi and Edward Sundstrom. Important that he gets good points here today in the championship chase. Then Patrick Hirsch and Jeroen den Boer, Mercedes versus BMW on row 5. Row 6, Mercedes again versus the first of the Fords, Christopher Nygaard, the race-winning car there from yesterday, starting 11th. Brown, that's Dan Brown with Jan Hayden next to him, Ferrari versus Porsche on that row of the grid. Max Martin with some work to do from 15th on the grid. He suffered a puncture in qualifying, so didn't really qualify where you'd expect. Maya Melnoff in the Lamborghini way down in 17th place. Watch out for young Adrian Tombe, a single-seater racer mostly, but he's starting out in GT3 here. Matt Griffin starts 21st after they had some ECU and damper problems in qualifying yesterday. And Greg Franke, who shares his car with Enzo Eid, the Greg who went on to win the Spa 24-hour race just a few weeks ago. Well, he qualified well down the grid for this one in the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT car. He's back on the 12th row, and they were third in the Drivers' Championship coming into this event in Slovakia. And yesterday's results, well, not ideal for them. They have held on to third narrowly, but they're only a couple of points ahead of their nearest rivals. So the Audi really going to have to work hard, although I did see Greg this morning and he feels as though they may have made some useful changes to suspension setup, which should suit this Slovakia track. Cars just following the pace car around at the moment, and you'll see the layout of this track. It's got a few fast corners. It's also got some tight twisty sections that really one corner sort of flows straight into the next one, so you've got to sometimes compromise one bend in order to get the next sequence right. This is really very much on the infield section, and then up to turns 7 and 8 they're going here, and the track, as I say, just under 6k long, but it folds in upon itself, so actually it's not spread over a great area, and there's some fantastic viewing spots here up on the banking where you can really see just about all of the circuit. So the teams now, not a lot they can do, just hoping that their drivers get them off the line cleanly when they come back past the pits next time for the rolling start. Just saw the number 24 Lamborghini go through. Just to remind you, Albert von Taxis and Nicky Melnoff, they're not in the black car that we normally expect to see them in. That car got damaged at Spa, and they're in a white, blue and green Lamborghini Gallardo this weekend, so a slight difference in livery than what we're used to. So they're coming around to the last couple of sections. Still a little bit of way to go. They're coming down to turn 10. They've got the wiggle through turn 11 and 12. That heads them down onto the back straight here. That's out of the second sector and into the final sector. Up over the rise they go, and there are a couple of crests here. There is some elevation change, and we saw some pretty exciting shots yesterday of the front of one of the Ferraris, the Glyn Geddy car in particular. Both front wheels actually off the ground during the race. Bit scary, of course, because if the air gets underneath a GT car, we've all seen it in the past, that a car can actually flip over backwards. Hopefully we won't see anything like that here this weekend, but dramatic pictures yesterday of the Ferrari as it came over the crest with both front wheels flying in the air. So we are now getting ready for the start of the second race of the weekend here at the Slovakia Ring. It's Lamborghini versus Mercedes on the front row. Stefan Rosina, vastly experienced in the Super Cup, up against a single-seater star, Jarek Yanis, who's done a lot of Formula 3000. He's done A1GP. He's a real, but he's also quick in a touring car, quick in GT cars. Very, very experienced, both these guys up front. But who is going to have the edge? The safety car, the pace car is in. We are all set for the start then of the race here. It's the fifth event rather of the season, and away goes the Lamborghini straight into the lead, and the Mercedes is chasing, and it looks so far as though we've got a pretty clean start. But of course, what will happen at the first corner as they all fan their way out and try and look for position into turn 1, and the Lamborghini is ahead. He stays ahead of the Mercedes into the first turn. The Aston Martin and Max Martin trying to go around the outside at turn 1, over the first of the crests, and down the hill they come into turn 2. Very quick right-hander, this one. taken with just a little bit of a lift and then try and settle the car and through. BMW on the outside, Edward Sandstrom trying to make up some places in the Team Schubert car, up over the more steep rise. This is where we saw the cars lifting in qualifying and indeed in the race yesterday, but on this first lap, just keeping it nice and stable, and down into turn 3 where everything starts to tighten up, and now we're into the tight and twisty section. And out in front, Stefan Rosina made a great getaway from the Mercedes of Jarek Janis, the Ferrari of Castellacci. Mike Parisi, a good start in the number 3 Mercedes, but under attack there from Nicky Katzberg in the BMW. So it was Katzberg who lost out a bit at the start there, as he sort of expected. As he told us on the grid earlier, he said, I'm going to have to watch out. I know I'm not as quick off the line. And indeed, he has lost a little bit, but he's still in the hunt. He's being chased there by Dino Lunardi in the number 15 Audi R8. And again, we've got a great mixture of cars all battling up front, but the Lamborghini Gallardo of Rosina has just made a little bit of a break, as we saw Von Turn and Taxis did yesterday. The Gallardo is looking in great shape here. Second place then, the Mercedes, the white car with the orange trim, if you like, around the bonnet and around the front of the car. That is the machine of Jarek Janis. He's chasing down second place. Third still, Castellacci in the Ferrari. And as the rest of them come into the final couple of turns, we ride on board with Castellacci, who wants to further extend the lead in the Drivers' Championship that he and Federico Leo share at the moment. And as we come out onto the start-finish straight, let's see whether he goes on the attack. The Ferrari team will be aware, the AF Corsa team will be aware that they lost grip in the final stages yesterday, and they won't want to work those Michelin tyres too hard in the early stages, otherwise they'll lose time in the closing laps. We saw it yesterday, he wasn't able to sustain the pace of the Mercedes, but let's see what happens, whether they've changed the setup. And there, great view through that quick turn 2. Lovely corner, and now you're coming up over the rise. This is the steeper rise. Listen as he comes, or watch as he comes over the top here. Yep, no lifting from those guys, but you can see the cars are quite light as they come over the rise. And then down into turn 3, tight into the apex, and still no way through for Castellacci to get past the Mercedes. Lamborghini leads then in the very early stages of this 1-hour race. 2 drivers, and the pit window opening up 25 minutes into the race itself, down into turn 6. Ferrari very quick here through this twiddly section. Just listen to that V8 engine working hard. Well, very close into turn 8 that was. Now the slightly quicker turn 9, and then they're back over one of the rises and down the other side into a much tighter downhill braking area, which is turn 10. The Ferrari having a little think about a move, but not close enough to the Mercedes, and Mike Parisi and the other Mercedes right behind. Then you've got Nicky Katzberg running in 5th, Dino Lunardi 6th in the Audi. Claudia Hurtgen, she's in 7th, so she lost out a bit at the start as well. But I think the BMWs are biding their time a little bit at the moment, I have to say. Behind her, Patrick Hirsch in 8th. Jan Halen is in 9th place in the first of the Pro Speed Porsches, and in 10th place, Max Martin, the Aston Martin. Well, he was in 10th. I think he's still there, trying to make up some places on these opening couple of laps. Let's just see as they come past the line once again. And the Lamborghini Gallardo opening up the advantage, up to 3 seconds already that Stefan Rosina has opened up over everyone else as they flash past the grandstand. Lovely opening sequence of laps this, as the Ferrari comes down the inside. Oh yeah, Francesco Castellacci does a lovely move down the inside, slides past the Mercedes, just braked later, had great turn in and was able to get into the corner. The Mercedes trying to come back on power, but I don't think he's going to be quite there. And as they turn down through turn 2 and turn 3, as they head down towards the tighter section, now the Mercedes is actually going to have to protect itself from behind, because now Mike Parisi in a similar car is looking to try and make an approach here. So the Ferrari's got into 2nd. As they come over the rise, you can again see how light the front of the cars. Oh, that was one of the Audis flicking up in the air there. That was one of the United Autosports cars, the first of the 2 of them. And once again, you do see that some cars are lifting over that crest. Pretty exciting, but pretty scary too for the drivers involved. Now, back with that battle, and you've got Mercedes now having been pushed down to 3rd. 2 Mercedes, because you've got Janis chased by Mike Parisi, but there is Nicky Katzberg in the white, blue and red BMW Z4, the third of those three cars. He's chased by the black Audi of Dino Lunardi, and the rest of them flashing through the shot there. The Aston Martin of Max Martin still in 10th place, by the way. Greg Frankie in his Audi, still a long way down the field, so hasn't really been able to make a great deal of progress here. And everybody looking fairly sensible in these early stages, I have to say. Number 21, that's Matt Griffin in the other Ferrari 458. Matt did have some slight problems, ECU problems yesterday. Hopefully they've got those solved. Now, take another look at the lifting going on the front end of the car. Look at the one on the right. Oh, and it starts to go up, and thankfully then comes back down just out of, just before it sort of goes out of our shot. That is a little too exciting, I would say, for those guys. Some good racing further back down the field there. The other M-Tech Ferrari involved. What's going on up front? Well, the Gallardo's gap 3.4 seconds over the Ferrari, which is slightly quicker on that lap. And a change behind there because, the Dino Lunardi has got past the BMW of Nicky Katzberg. So the number 15 Audi, the black and blue car, is coming into shot there. That's got past Nicky Katzberg, and right behind Katzberg is Claudia Hurtgen in her BMW Z4. So the Z4's not showing quite the pace in these early stages, but are they looking off their tyres? I don't know. I think Nicky Katzberg would be pushing pretty hard because his co-driver is not quite as quick. So in some ways he might as well go for it hard, and even if the tyres are not quite as strong at the end of the race, Harry Colin would just try and hang on as much as possible. But Nicky's lost a place, and Dino Lunardi has got up to 5th position here. Looking there at the Pro Speed Porsche of Jan Halen. Got Max Martin in the number 9 Aston Martin tucked in behind, and Max, of course, another GT1 World Championship regular. So up against Jan Halen, who's raced all over the world. Actually lives in the States nowadays, Jan Halen, and races a lot in America, but before that raced hugely in the Porsche Super Cup and all sorts of stuff. And who was that? Was that Greg Frankie just running wide there, getting out onto the curb? No, it's the other car, I think the 32 car of Didier Andre, the other Belgian Audi Club car, and he managed to just about get himself back onto the tarmac, but fraught stuff behind them. Tucked in there as well is the United Autosports car of Matt Bell. Looks like Matt Griffin's in that group as well, and all of these guys fighting just outside the top 20, so plenty of work for them to do to try and get into point scoring positions here. And it just goes to show how evenly matched these cars are, the various different manufacturers that are represented in the FIA GT3 European Championship. Very impressive mix of cars it is. 8 different manufacturers. We've got the 2 Porsches, we've got 6 of the Mercedes SLS AMG in there, 4 of the BMW Z4s, the front engine Z4, 2 Ford GTs this weekend, just the 1 Aston Martin this weekend, the team not able to bring its second car, 6 of the Audi R8s, we've got 4 Ferraris this weekend, 2 Lamborghinis, and once again we're seeing an incredibly competitive mix between all these cars. They are equalised by the FIA commission that is responsible for just that job in terms of weight and air restrictors, power to weight ratio, aerodynamics to a certain extent, and things are looking very, very close between them. If anything, the Audi is not showing quite the pace here this weekend that we have seen on previous occasions. Not as fast around this Slovakia ring perhaps as they have been at somewhere like Paul Ricard, but some circuits will suit some cars and others obviously favour different setups. We've got a mid-engine car first, a mid-engine car second, front-engine cars third, fourth, mid-engine car fifth, then front-engine sixth and seventh. It's still the Lamborghini Gallardo leading of Stefan Rosina. Oh, was that steam again from that Ford GT? We saw that yesterday. I do hope that the Ford GT is not in trouble once again. Maybe it was just a bit of dust being kicked up as they come through, and hopefully he's going to be able to continue on his way. Still some great racing going on further back here, and there in the middle of that pack you just had a quick glimpse of Nicky Melnhoff in the number 24 Lamborghini, but again that's outside the top 20 and struggling to make its presence felt in terms of scoring any points at all here today. Also the Porsches struggling a little bit more. We saw Paul van Splunteren take a good victory at Paul Ricard last time out in the number 1 Porsche, but he's currently down in 12th place. Well, his teammate, there it is, Max Soule, driving that car before passing it over to Paul van Splunteren, and he is currently down in 12th position. see the number 14 Ford of Christopher Nygaard there, and we think there is a problem there. There certainly seemed to be a bit of smoke or something emanating from that car. They had a problem with it yesterday, and it looks as though Christopher Nygaard might be in trouble. I think, in fact, both cars went out on pretty much the same lap yesterday. Let's just watch that number 14 car of Christopher Nygaard. No evidence there of any smoke or steam or anything emanating, and it seems to be running reasonably quickly, so who knows, we'll keep an eye on it. 13th place it holds at the moment. Fastest lap of the race, just been set by our race leader, by the way, as they come back over that rise, looking for that front end lifting, the Porsche there lifting a little bit, of course, rear engine Porsche, and perhaps have to be a bit more wary with that kind of a setup. Mercedes have done a fair bit of testing here, actually, looking at that whole issue of front end lift, and have come up with a few little tweaks. Thomas Enger was commentating with me yesterday, and great to have him alongside. He's back home in the UK today after getting a flight last night, but he was telling me that Mercedes actually developing a system where if the front wheels come off the ground, well, and there is definitely steam or smoke from that right front, isn't there? So the right front, big trouble. Or is it steam from a radiator? I'm not sure. Certainly something going wrong once again there for Christopher Nygaard. Looks more like, is it tyre smoke or steam? It looks more like steam to me, but it might be tyre smoke just rubbing against the bodywork. Whatever it is, it's not looking good at all, is it, for Christopher Nygaard as he continues on his way in 13th place. Just to come back to that Mercedes thing, yeah, a little sensor in the front wheels that when the front wheels aren't turning at their proper speed because they're up in the air, then the engine cuts momentarily to hopefully bring the front of the car back down again. And on a circuit like this, where you've got such a crest which lifts the front, then that is obviously a pretty useful system. Now then, is Christopher Nygaard going to be able to continue here, or is he going to be heading into the pit lane? No, he's still going round for the moment. Race leader Stefan Rosina, 3.6 seconds the gap. The Ferrari was quicker on that lap, and the Ferrari was, what, about 7/10 of a second faster on that lap than the Gallardo, the Lamborghini that leads currently. Still Jarek Yanis in third, Parisi in fourth, Lunardi in fifth, Katzberger's in sixth, Claudia Hurtgen in seventh. A little move down the inside there for the number 20 Ferrari, yeah, and passing Edward Sandstrom. Good move that from Zdeno Mikuláško, and he's a local driver, knows the circuit well, and Mikuláško has managed to find a way past Edward Sandstrom. And Sandstrom, really, I saw him briefly this morning, and as I say, he was disappointed that they have lost more points to the Ferrari in terms of the championship, and now he's lost a place there to one of the other Ferraris, and that's not going to help his cause at all, and he currently finds himself down in 15th place. So he and Aziz Al Faisal really have some work to do to score points, but it's still early stages, and yesterday we saw quite a few teams get into trouble with tyres, not only in terms of tyre wear, but also in terms of punctures. And oh, we've got a spinner, and that's Dan Brown, and the other Ferrari is the one of Mikuláško we just saw. So it looks as though whether they've made contact or somebody else was involved, Mikuláško and Dan Brown are trying to rejoin the fray once again, but that has obviously put them well down the field, and that is very, very disappointing for those guys. And well, Dan Brown, I don't know what he has to do, because whatever happens, he seems to attract contact with other cars. Usually it's somebody hitting him. We'll have to wait and see what happened in that one. We may not get a chance to see it again, but whatever, it has certainly hurt both Ferraris. So, well, they have dropped down the field, and that means that we've still got the black Ferrari up front, of course, the car of Castellacci and Leo, but the other Ferraris are struggling somewhat more. And now we've got bits of bodywork in the rear Venturi on Christopher Nygaard's car. So not only has he got steam or smoke coming from the front, he's now got a detached rear Venturi, and that's a real surprise. I mean, the Fischer Racing team, a very experienced team, and in fact the same personnel in that team. Oh, move here from Jan Heylen. Jan Heylen in the Porsche trying to square. Oh no! Contact between Mercedes and Porsche. Round they go. Pierre Hirsch in the number 45 car there. Oh, sorry, Patrick Hirsch in the 45 car, just trying to shut the door on the Porsche as they went into the first turn, and contact was the result, and it has put them both out of the race by the looks of things. And what a shame to lose both Mercedes and the Porsche. That was the front-running Porsche of the pair at that time, was running in 9th place, and Patrick Hirsch here was running in 8th clearly, and he's trying to ask for a push, but there's no way they're going to get him back in the race. They are going to have to give it a full tow, get it out of the way, put it into a place of safety. I don't think we'll see the safety car come out. We didn't yesterday in similar circumstances. There is the other Porsche, and that had a bit of a wiggle on there, didn't it? I wonder if he was just pushing on a little too hard, or whether he's already getting tyre problems. And there's a puncture for the 32 Audi. That's Didier Andre. We did see him run wide earlier, remember? I wonder if that was part of the reason for a puncture, but this is exactly what we saw yesterday, and why nobody can count themselves in a comfortable position in this race. Punctures seem to be a factor here, whether it's picking up a little bit of gravel, or whether it's where it's a difficult one to know. But, well, whatever it is, it's a lot going on. Let's go and speak to Jirko Malčirek, who is teammate to Didier Andre with that Audi that's in trouble.
Jirko, obviously a special moment for you today, racing here in the Audi at your local track. The home fans will be going crazy.
This is a very good experience. I feel very well because the team is very friendly, and Vincent Rossi is a very good friend. The whole team was very professional. We won 24 hours in Spa, and I am very happy, and we will see at the end, because yesterday we had a black luck with my mistake maybe, and we will see the seal is far.
I've just had an update that you have suffered a puncture as well.
Yes, it's possible. All weekend we had a problem with the tires. It's too hot here, and I haven't tried car in the free practice. My first experience with the supercar with Audi was in the qualifying, and I would like to improve.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully he will get his chance to come out, but you can see that his car, or a moment ago, was still limping around very slowly, trying not to damage the rest of the car, and obviously that rubber flapping away can do an awful lot of damage, so they've got to be careful. Pulled off at the side is that Mercedes that went off into the gravel trap earlier on, Patrick Hirsch, and that's a great shame because his teammate Filip Sladeka is another of the Slovakian drivers due to race this weekend, and of course he's now not going to get his chance anymore as the car is out of the race. So let's just remind you what's going on up front. We're having a little look at replay here. Let's just take a look. Oh, it was the Ferraris, right. Well, it's hard to see exactly what happened. I think that Michalasco was trying to get past Dan Brown, and whatever happened, they made contact, and thankfully they got going once again. And this was the move as Jan Heylen went to the inside, the Mercedes. Well, I don't know whether he didn't know he was there or whether he just thought he was going to take his line, but the car was already there. I mean, it was inevitable contact. I don't know where Jan Heylen was meant to go in that particular instance. Patrick Hirsch really could have given him more space, I think, and in fact the Porsche continued. Right, I wasn't aware of that, but the Porsche did continue, and he's dropped to 12th place. He is still running, so Heylen's still running in 12th place, but obviously Patrick Hirsch well and truly out of the race, and you have to say it would have been sensible for him to have given that place up and come back and fight later on in the race, perhaps when the tyres were in different states of wear. Now the leaders have come through, and Rossina still has a lead of 4.1 seconds. He's opened it up again a bit over the Ferrari, which is in second place. Then Mercedes, Audi and BMW. There's Heylen. See, he's still running, and he's now up ahead of Edward Sandstrom, and that punctured tyre, my goodness, it was so early on in the lap for Didier Andre that he's still going on that punctured tyre, and yet he still hasn't made it back. Oh, the leader's in trouble, he's got a puncture, and this is exactly what we saw when the other Lamborghini was leading yesterday, when it was Albert Montour and Taxis. This time it's Stefan Rosina. He had a 4-second lead, and it's just been wiped out by a punctured left rear, and now he's got to try and get back, but he's on the infield. Oh, the Ferrari! The Ferrari's gone off! Now we've got the second place car off as well. Well, I can't believe it. We've lost the leader and the second place car on the same lap.
and it's all change here. The championship leaders are in the gravel, and although this car might make it back to the pit lane, I'm not at all sure that the Ferrari's going to get out of that gravel trap. So absolutely everything going on the same lap. It's lap number 10 here. We've still got just under 40 minutes to go, and major dramas as the championship leading car has been dropped into the gravel, or has been hit. I don't know, maybe it got hit by another car, but there it sits, deeply embedded in the gravel trap. And Francesco Castellacci, who's been so solid, so reliable and fast, well, something's gone wrong this time, and they will not score points. I tell you what though, it's fantastic as a neutral observer in terms of the championship, because the championship chase is now going to be very much closer. Up the hill goes the Lamborghini, still struggling to get back to the pits, and Stefan Rosina losing massive amounts of time here. And there is your new race leader. It is the Mercedes of Jarek Yanis, chased by the other car of Mike Parisi. The two different teams, the Gravity Charouz team running the lead car, Graf Racing running the second place car. Third now for Dino Lunardi in his Audi. Fourth place for Nicky Katzberg. Fifth for Claudia Hurtgen. Max Martin, by the way, has got up to sixth now in his Aston Martin, so he's been on a bit of a charge and has managed to get past a couple of cars. And of course we've lost some cars in that group, so that's good news for the second place car in the championship at the moment in the drivers series. Max Martin, he has now got a real opportunity to further close the gap in the points. Porsche versus Ford here, and Max Soule in the number one. Porsche coming under pressure here from Christopher Nygaard. He's lost that rear Venturi altogether on the Ford GT. It was dangling for a little while, now it's gone, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all, does it? He seems to be able to put plenty of pressure on as our former race leader look at the debris, just look at the amount of damage that's being done to the back of that car. And I wonder, will it be okay? Yesterday when Albert Montana-Taxis limped back home, they did send him back out, but he had to pull over straight away because the car was too damaged. And again, Nygaard trying to get past that. Look at that damage to all the bodywork there. Question is, has it damaged the suspension as well? Trying to have a look at it. They're aware, of course, same team that runs the other car, so they will know what happened yesterday. But looks like they're going to send him on his way. And hopefully, and it's almost exactly the same time in the race. Oh, which one is that? One of the Mercedes is off. It's the number 12 car, in fact, not the lead car. It's teammate to the lead car. That's Jakob Knoll in the other of the Gravity Charouz race entries, and he is desperately trying to get out. He might make it. Look, he can almost get there just a little bit further. Oh, traction control on the gravel does work. After all, these cars, remember, do run traction control. Look at the gravel. Look at the gravel coming out of the rear Venturi. Just all over the place. You would not want to be the next car coming around after that thing's just rejoined. But he has got out the gravel. And as I say, these cars run pretty sophisticated traction control systems, and it seems to work. It gets you out of a gravel trap in a Mercedes SLS AMG, despite having a great 6.2 litre engine in the front and rear wheel drive. Okay, so let's just update you on what's going on. We have a Mercedes 1-2 at the moment, not that car because it only just got back on, but it's there. The leaders are going to be coming through that area, you know, where the gravel's just gone down, so that could make life exciting. There is the leader, teammate to the car that we've just seen spreading it liberally all over the track, and it is the car of Jarek Yanis. Right behind him is Mike Parisi, and the Frenchman might have the edge here, because it's always good to be second car in a situation like this, because you can watch the car ahead get into trouble, realise yourself, and perhaps lift off a fraction earlier. So far so good though, and the gap still tiny between them. Lovely battle between two of the Mercedes, which seem to be looking after their tyres. Look at all the mess there, but they've got through that section, I think. Seem to be looking after their tyres pretty well at the moment, these cars. Third place Audi of Dino Lunardi not being dropped at a rapid rate, and I have to say that they've made good progress, the Santlock team, with the car over the course of the weekend. They seem to have found the magic trick that makes the Audi work, because yesterday all of the Audis seem to be struggling somewhat, but there's Lunardi, look at him going well. Stefan Rosina back on circuit after that ever such a slow lap, and of course in danger of being lapped now by the race leaders, although I expect his pace will be similar to them. But there Mike Parisi coming around the last corner. They're not going to get into the pits on this lap, but some of the others further down the order will get into the pits on this lap because the pit window is about to open. We're 10 seconds away from the pit window opening up, and then we'll see the first of the cars into pit lane for the pit stop, the driver change, and sending them back on their way once more. Leaders then into the first corner. Watch perhaps for some pit stops being made. Let's just take another look at what happened to the number 12 car. Well, he just understeered off, just couldn't get the car turned in. Looked like he just drove off, but actually they're right on the edge there as they're turning and braking at the same time, and the car just understeered off the road and into the gravel trap. So second drivers are getting ready in the pit lane as the pit window opens up, and we're expecting to see driver changes taking place any moment now, and we'll see who decides to come in first, particularly if the leaders. In comes the number 13 Ford, first car in. That's not the car that we saw dangling bits earlier on. That's the car of Martin Matzke. He's going to hand over to Marcus Paltala, and at least they've got a bit further in the race today than they managed yesterday, because both cars went out in the first stint of the race yesterday. Looks as though both cars are going to make it at least into the second stint. No change up front, but I tell you what, the pit stop is maybe going to determine things. Which of these two cars will stop early? You get the feeling that Mike Parisi has the capability of going faster if he could get in front. Now, if the first car, the Gravity Charouz car of Jarek Yanis, stops early, I think Parisi might stay out there and try and do a few laps in clear air to try and get the advantage. But if Yanis stays out to the last possible moment, then of course Parisi's got a bit more of a problem, and it's going to be difficult. Both of them are handing over to drivers, particularly in Parisi's case, he's handing over to a bronze-graded driver, Philippe Gioc, who you wouldn't expect to be quite as quick. Same deal with Jarek Yanis. He's handing over to Leonid Machitsky, who's also a bronze-rated driver. So neither of their teammates are likely to be as quick as they are. So I think you'll see these two cars staying out there for as long as possible in order that they might be able to give their co-drivers as much of an edge as possible. So we could still see the race winner coming from a car that is behind these cars. Maybe the Audi here, Jérôme Demey, who will take over from Dino Lunardi. Now, into the pits comes one of the Heiko cars, the other Kraft car, sorry, of Grégoire Demoustier and Joachim Lambert. So that car coming in from sort of lower end of the top 10. So that car could be a threat. Certainly Demoustier, another bronze driver, will be taking it over from Joachim Lambert, who's a silver-graded driver. Just to remind you, top grade in this series is gold for the more experienced drivers who've got a good winning pedigree behind them. Bronze drivers, the least experienced, usually the amateur racers who've come into racing later in life, perhaps made their money in their own professional careers and then have come into racing, and they're normally the bronze-graded drivers, and there are plenty of them in GT3. That's how they enjoy themselves at their weekends, going racing in these big, powerful machines. So, still not much change up front. You've still got the two Mercedes battling for the lead here. Just to remind you, we lost the race-leading Lamborghini of Stefan Rosina with a puncture. He's still going, but he's way down the field. In fact, he's almost a lap down because we can see him up ahead of these cars. We also lost the second place Ferrari, car number 50, the championship leading drivers, Federico Leo and Francesco Castellacci, not able to score points in this second race, but it really does mean that the championship is going to be much, much tighter going to the final two races at Zandvoort in October. And I have to say, for GT fans, that is going to be quite some venue and a brilliant end to the season, a brilliant finale to the season. Anybody who wants to get over to Zandvoort, mid-October, the dates of that final round. It's going to be a fabulous contest to see who ends up wrapping up the title. But let's watch this race and see whether either of these two Mercedes is going to get the edge. As you can see, as we thought, both Yanis and Parisi are staying out there, but Lunardi has come in from third. Dino Lunardi is in from third place in his Audi R8. So, an opportunity perhaps for Lunardi and Jérôme Demey. Just to remind you on the pit stops, there is it's not a real race in the pits. There's no tyre change. All they're allowed to do is adjust tyre pressures. The driver change takes place and they have to sit there, make sure that they are within the pits for a minimum of 65 seconds, and the team manager will be on the clock counting them down to when they're released and back out onto the circuit. battle between Ferrari of Matt Griffin and the United Autosports Audi here of Matt Bell. Matt Bell trying to get alongside Griffin. Oh, bits of debris there running over there. That can't help at all. Up over the rise they go, and Matt Bell trying to do it on Matt Griffin. Has he got it? No, Griffin fighting back again. But now the Audi has the inside line. Wonderful side-by-side racing from the two drivers, the Irishman Matt Griffin and the British driver Matt Bell, putting on a great display. Ferrari versus Audi, and that is brilliant, brilliant stuff. Giving each other just enough space to work. And sorry, it's Joe Osborne's car. It's Joe. I apologise, Joe. Well done. It's Joe Osborne who had that accident yesterday in qualifying, and it's Joe Osborne. And he's come from the back of the field. He was last on the grid. So well done to Joe Osborne. He's got himself into 12th place now. So Joe Osborne in the number 22 car there has got it into 12th place, and he's fought past Matt Griffin. Look at the bits of rubber being thrown off the cars there. Great big lumps of rubber being thrown off the cars. But yeah, Joe Osborne certainly making up for the damage, and he was busy helping the team yesterday.